flight attendant with zero flying experience, had to land a plane full of 180 passengers when both pilots collapsed at 30,000 feet. She had 10 minutes to learn everything. 10 minutes to make decisions that would either save everyone or kill them all. This is the story of how Emma Rodriguez became a hero in the sky. Before we dive in, what time are you listening? Where are you from? Drop a comment below and tell me. And please like and subscribe for more videos like this. Emma Rodriguez was walking down the aisle of Flight 447 with her usual smile, serving beverages and checking on passengers. She had been a flight attendant for 6 years now, and this route from Seattle to Miami was one she knew by heart. The morning sun was streaming through the cabin windows, and everything seemed perfectly normal. She noticed a businessman typing on his laptop, a mother trying to calm her crying baby, and an elderly couple holding hands. Emma loved her job because of moments like these, the simple human connections at 30,000 feet above the ground. She walked into the galley to prepare the next round of service when she heard a strange thud from the cockpit. Her colleague Sarah looked at her with worried eyes. They both knew that sound was not normal. Emma knocked on the cockpit door, following standard procedure, but there was no response. She knocked again, harder this time, and called out the captain's name. Still nothing. Her heart started racing. She used her emergency access code to unlock the door, and what she saw made her blood run cold. Captain Michael Stevens was slumped over the controls, unconscious. Next to him, First Officer David Park was clutching his chest, his face pale and covered in sweat, barely conscious. Emma's training kicked in immediately. She called for help, and within seconds, 2 passengers who were doctors rushed to the cockpit. They quickly assessed both pilots. Captain Stevens had suffered a massive stroke, and First Officer Park was having a severe heart attack. Neither of them could fly the plane. The doctors were doing everything they could, but both pilots were completely incapacitated. Emma stood there, frozen for just a moment, as the reality hit her. She was now responsible for 180 lives, and she had no idea how to fly a plane. The aircraft was on autopilot, but that would not last forever. Someone had to land this plane, and there was nobody else. Emma took a deep breath and sat down in the captain's seat. Her hands were shaking as she grabbed the radio. She had watched pilots do this 1,000 times, but watching and doing were completely different things. She pressed the button and spoke as calmly as she could. She told air traffic control that both pilots were down and she needed immediate assistance. The controller's voice came through, professional but tinged with urgency. He asked for her experience level. Emma told him the truth. She had none. 0. She had never touched these controls in her life. The controller, a man named Robert Chen, had been working in air traffic control for 20 years, but he had never faced a situation like this. He immediately contacted every available resource. Within minutes, a retired pilot named Catherine Walsh was on the line. Catherine had flown this exact model of aircraft for 30 years before retiring. She was at home, 2,000 miles away, but she was now Emma's only hope. Catherine's voice was steady and reassuring. She told Emma that they could do this together, step by step. But first, they needed to assess the situation. How much fuel did they have? What was the weather like? Where was the nearest suitable airport? Emma scanned the instruments, her eyes darting across dozens of screens and gauges she did not understand. Everything looked like a foreign language. Catherine guided her, telling her exactly where to look, what each number meant. They had enough fuel for maybe 90 minutes. The weather was clear, which was good. The nearest major airport was 40 minutes away. But 40 minutes meant nothing if Emma could not figure out how to disengage the autopilot and actually fly this massive machine. Catherine started with the basics. She explained what each primary control did. The yoke controlled pitch and roll. The throttles controlled speed. The rudder pedals controlled direction. Simple words for incredibly complex actions. Emma listened carefully, repeating everything back to make sure she understood. Behind her, Sarah was keeping the passengers calm, telling them there was a minor technical issue but everything was under control. It was a lie, but a necessary one. Panic would only make things worse. The doctors were still working on the pilots, but it was clear neither of them would be able to help. Emma was completely alone in this. She could feel the weight of 180 lives pressing down on her shoulders. She thought about her own family, her mother who was waiting for her call tonight, her little nephew who looked up to her. She could not let them down. She could not let anyone down. Catherine walked Emma through every single step. First, they needed to change course toward the airport. This meant adjusting the autopilot settings. Emma's fingers fumbled over the controls as Catherine described each button, each dial. It took several attempts, but finally, the plane began to turn. Emma felt a small surge of hope. Maybe she could actually do this. But that hope was short-lived. The air traffic controller informed her that she would need to manually land the plane. The autopilot could not do it for her. This was the part that terrified Emma the most. Landing was the most dangerous phase of any flight. Professional pilots trained for years to master it. She had minutes. Catherine's voice remained calm, almost hypnotically so. She told Emma that fear was natural, but she could not let it control her. She needed to trust herself, trust the instructions, and take it one moment at a time. The plane was descending now, gradually losing altitude as they approached the airport. Emma could see the city below, getting closer and closer. Every air traffic controller in the region was focused on Flight 447. Emergency. Crews were being positioned on the runway. Ambulances, fire trucks, rescue teams, all waiting for what might be a disaster. The media had gotten word of the situation, and news helicopters were circling at a safe distance. The whole world was watching. Emma's hands gripped the yoke as Catherine guided her through the descent procedure. Reduce speed gradually. Adjust the angle of descent. Keep the nose level. Watch the altitude. Watch the speed. Emma was trying to process 10 things at once, and each one felt critical. The plane shook slightly as they descended through different air layers. Emma's heart was pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. She looked out the windscreen and could see the runway now, a thin strip of concrete that seemed impossibly small from this height. Catherine told her to line up with the runway, to use the instruments and her own eyes to guide the plane. Emma made small adjustments, overcorrecting at first, then finding a rhythm. The ground was getting closer. 2,000 feet. 1,500 feet. 1,000 feet. Catherine's instructions became more rapid. Reduce throttle. Adjust pitch. Keep it steady. Emma could barely breathe. Her entire body was tense, every muscle locked. 500 feet. The runway was right there. 300 feet. Catherine told her to pull back slightly on the yoke, to flare the aircraft for landing. Emma did as she was told, pulling back gently. The nose lifted slightly. 200 feet. 100 feet. The plane was almost touching down. Emma held her breath. And then, with a hard thump, the wheels hit the runway. The plane bounced once, then settled. Emma immediately pushed the throttles into reverse as Catherine had instructed, activating the brakes. The plane screamed as it decelerated, the engines roaring in protest. The aircraft slowed, slower and slower, until finally, it came to a complete stop halfway down the runway. For a moment, there was absolute silence. Emma sat there, her hands still gripping the controls, unable to move. Then, from the cabin behind her, she heard something. Applause. The passengers were clapping, cheering, crying with relief. Sarah rushed into the cockpit and hugged Emma tightly. Emma started crying, all the fear and tension finally releasing. She had done it. She had actually done it. 180 people were safe, because a flight attendant had learned to fly a plane in 10 minutes. Emergency crews rushed to the aircraft. The pilots were taken to the hospital immediately. Captain Stevens survived the stroke but would never fly again. First Officer Park recovered fully from his heart attack after several weeks. Emma Rodriguez became a household name overnight. News outlets around the world covered her story. She was interviewed on every major network, called a hero, given awards and recognition. But Emma always insisted she was not a hero. She was just someone who did what needed to be done. She credited Catherine Walsh, Robert Chen, and everyone who had helped guide her through those terrifying minutes. She also credited her training as a flight attendant, which had taught her to stay calm under pressure, to follow procedures, to put others first. The aviation industry took notice of Emma's story. New protocols were developed to ensure that flight attendants received more comprehensive training on basic flight operations. The idea was that in an extreme emergency like this, they would have at least some foundational knowledge to draw upon. Emma herself went on to pursue pilot training. She said that after landing a plane once, she figured she might as well learn to do it properly. Within 2 years, she had earned her commercial pilot license and was flying regional routes. She never forgot that day. The fear, the responsibility, the moment when she realized that sometimes ordinary people are called upon to do extraordinary things. The passengers of Flight 447 stayed in touch with Emma. Many of them sent her letters, thanking her for saving their lives. Some of them came to visit her. The mother with the crying baby told Emma that her daughter would grow up knowing that a brave woman had saved her life before she was old enough to remember. The elderly couple said that Emma had given them more years to spend together. The businessman, who had been typing on his laptop, quit his stressful job and decided to spend more time with his family. Realizing how fragile life truly was, Emma's story reminded everyone that heroes do not always wear capes or have special powers. Sometimes, they are just regular people who refuse to give up when everything seems impossible. Emma still works as a pilot today, and she still tells her story whenever someone asks. She wants people to know that fear is not the opposite of courage. Courage is acting despite the fear. She wants people to understand that in moments of crisis, you discover strengths you never knew you had. And she wants everyone to remember that when lives are on the line, there is no room for doubt or hesitation. You simply do what must be done. So if you like this video, please like and subscribe for more videos like this.